Don't let down your guards, people of Africa. Setting new traps all over the places. Rapid deployment on your seashores. Blood is spilling on your lands. My name is George Bosompim, and I say I'm a teacher because I teach film and television, script writing, and directing, and sometimes documentary filmmaking as well. You know, so the journey began from Tema. I've lived in Tema since 1968, and I attended Tema Parents Association School, which was a school where, you know, I started all these kind of, you know, acting on stage during the time when we were having our school speech days and all that. I used to have a friend called Daniel Amakon. We used to narrate stories in the class, you know, talk about the wars that happened between tribes, different tribes, and all those kind of things. So we started acting on stage as well within the school. After that, I went to Aboka State College, Abosco, and within that period, I met this literature master. He's called Kwesi Frimpong. He wanted to form this group, so he did a group that was a very big group because we had a lot of good guys in there, including our own Gabriel Chidakon was part of that group. You know, so we were acting on stage, but our whole kind of thing was more of poetry, music, you know, more like a cantata. It's very interesting because during those days were the revolutionary times, you know, so within the revolutionary times there were a lot of songs that we composed and put, you know, so we could sing a song like Colonized State. Colonized State, oh colonized state, when oh, colonized state. We promised the people all the good things, yet what do we see but sycophantic jackass, PDCs and NDCs, when oh, colonized state. Besides that, we also did songs on Africa and performed on stage, you know, so there's one like this, don't let down your guards, people of Africa. Setting new traps all over the places. Rapid deployment on your seashores. Blood is spilling on your lands. And this is to address the manner in which we have allowed the colonizer to use us to fight among ourselves, and we are spilling blood all over, killing our own people because of power. The consciousness began there. That bit about loving your country, loving the continent Africa and all those things. That's where I picked those things from. And then after that I went to sixth form at St. John's School, secondly. Fast forward, national service in Tema. While I was doing the national service in Tema, I realized that there was this group that had been formed, and we were doing a lot of stage performances, and we're doing this Anansi Chrome and all those kind of things. So live, basically stage performances. So I went to join that group. So GBC granted it the first time to be on television. That was in July 1990. So this is a Tema group. That's a fresh group. Nobody knows the group anywhere. But we came with a solid story. You know, the story was Poco Darling. And Poco Darling is a story around how older men go chasing small girls because of their money, influencing their money. And it was a hit, a big hit. So after that, there were other stories that were made. We did almost like 20-something different drama on television within that period. Within this period, I was thinking of where to go to, because my thoughts were priesthood or law, because I was thinking so much about justice for people, and that's the kind of, you know, mentality that I had. I'd done all these acting and writing some scripts and all those kind of things. So my godfather, Atoyani, who was a filmmaker at that time, because I'd lived in that area where he also lived in the same area as us. He was making films all the time. We were going in, as kids to go on the set, and we didn't know what it was about at the time. He'd called me and said, Kwame, what do you want to do? I said, oh, this is what I said. But you already been writing and acting, and why do you want to go and do something like that? You already have a path. Why do you want to go here? So he said, okay. I teach at NAFTI on Python. I wanted to go to NAFTI. What do you think? Then it triggered because I'd gone to NAFTI to act for them. So people like Kenny Macaulay, whose final year work had gone to work on and that kind of thing. So it was strange that he had brought that thing up. And I said, wow, okay. NAFTI, I've been there before. I've acted for some of their students' productions and all that. So well, then why didn't he go to NAFTI? So he did make me do the application. The first year I didn't get NAFTI. They put me on waiting lists. And I said, Charlie, this whole thing about NAFTI thing, let me find something else different to do. So then I wrote at the school instead of management studies. And I just wanted to even diversify. So I started something in management and accounting. And that's just to have something different. So when I was there, I think I was there for over a year when I was writing these exams and all. And then a friend of mine called me and said, oh, enough to you, this is challenge me. I'm giving up on that kind of thing because I'm now getting interested in this direction. Then he said, I've bought the form already for you. Then I said, okay, I'm not even prepared because NAFTI, at that time, entering NAFTI was very rigorous. You have to write an exam, you have to go for an interview, a whole lot of things. So I went without even prepared. I just told my godfather and said, oh yeah, go, try it again. Then I went and finally they picked me and I entered NAFTI in 1995. In 1998, Kenny Macaulay, that I've acted in his final year film in NAFTI, was the one who held my hand and took me to Gamma Film Company. At that time, I was just going to act for him in a film called Without Her Consent. Gamma Film started in 1998, somewhere in April 1998, when I just finished my final year work at a final year production at NAFTI. Kenny Macaulay, my friend, pulls me to Gamma Film because they have asked him to come and direct a feature film. I think that should be his first feature at the time, because I finished school in 1993 and doing some things on his own. I don't know whether it is his first feature, but he looked at the script and thought I could play a role in there. So he called me and I went there. And as soon as I got there, I was going to act. As soon as I got there, then this senior of ours called Ashon Katai. He's passed on too as well. He's so rest in peace, Senior Ashon. Senior Ashon Katai looked at me and said, aren't you the guy who went to NAFTI, he did script writing and everything? I said, yes. So why are you coming to act? Then I said, oh yeah, I asked you as well. I said, I know, but by this time you should be behind the camera doing things. Okay. Then he called the production manager for the production and said, you are hiring him, man. He's your assistant. So he's be the assistant production manager. So I got that job in addition to my acting. Right thing. And then after that, I stayed on in there for 16 years. Nobody asked me of my certificate. All I did was to get my final year work for them to see. That's all. So what I was also interested in is volunteering to do certain things. So, but one of them is a ScriptNet project, which is to do training for scriptwriters. So they come to Ghana, a UK-based NGO, and it was led by Ian Masters, and then things supported by Madam Roberta Gardner. She's still around. GBC used to train people, news readers and all those kind of things. So I volunteered to work with them from 2000, and within that period, we used to, do small scripts and then we would film them and all that. So with it, when I remember Deeds was the one that I directed, the first one I directed for them. Whilst I was doing District Colonial Court, they said there's a bursary for somebody to go to Bournemouth University, and that they put it across, but they have projects in Africa, but it's only one bursary. So we all have to try and apply. So I applied for it, and I got it. So 2005, I went to Bournemouth University, to the media school, to do television production and majoring in documentary filmmaking. Besides the bursary for my tuition, I had to find my own way, get money for this. When I was going, the government didn't want me to go, so they said I had to take a leave without salary. So it was a struggle for 2005 to early 2007, staying in the UK. But what I did that I felt sustained me was the fact that I didn't take any part-time job, anything there. I had jobs lined up here, so I come and do it and go back. And at that time, I had set up a small company with friends of mine. There's 7 of us. Some of them from NAFTI and the rest, and we come together to form a company, and that company was Box Office. That's the name of the company. So we formed a company, and we started doing some TV productions as well. So All That Glitters was the first one that we started with on television on TV3, and that's 2005 at the time, latter part of 2005 when I was going to school. And so we come together, come and do it. And there was the lead actor, Gamele Tozoro, one of the lead actors with Pusha and the rest in there. We used to make Gamele was also based in Scotland. So when on vacation, he also is on break. We come together, we come back to Ghana, we do it and go. And then I take some of those money, leave some money for my family, and then I go. But I didn't tell you this. Whilst we were doing Dark Sounds in 1990, the one that won an award, I said the one I said assistant director. The 1st July on that, within the 1998 period, the 1st July, is when I got married. So we were on set. We had that break because it was a holiday. I went to marry and came the next day and we continued working. Hottest Host was for presenters. Now Hottest Host brought out a lot of talent. Hottest Host was 2008 when I came from school. It was at Hottest Host that I realized that Funny Face would be a good actor. So he had not won, he was eliminated somewhere in the semi-final or something. And he said, oh no, you want to be a host? I said, no, you can be a better actor. You can be an actor rather than a host. So I said, I had the script. Wait, we would find money, we would do it. So relax. I said, oh, you want to be a host? I said, no, relax, we'll do that. So it's from there that we did Choco Trotro. That script had come as Accra Traffic. And then a colleague of mine, George Acting Tete, who has also passed on, may so rest in peace. I said, this thing, it should be this thing. And I said, yeah, then let's make it Choco. Then he said, no, I said, let's make it Trotro. Then he said, let's add Choco to it, it will be more interesting. Then we did it, Choco Trotro. So we did that thing, then I gave him that role as the mate in that thing. In Choco Trotro. And Choco Trotro was a hit. Because it was always number one. Yeah. It was competing with news and all that. Normally the TV3 news was number one, but this one could stay there. We stayed there like 2 years and stop. But after a point, then I moved on from that to do the live band thing, Bands Alive. So Bands Alive 2 was done 2 seasons within that period, And I worked with Mark Tonto, I worked with Rex Omar, I worked with Bester Simons, a whole lot of musicians, and we worked on that project with Charles Amoa and all those, with training young musicians, in the live band, and it was intense. It was good for Ghana because at that time live band music was going down, and we tried raising it. So we did 2 seasons of that, and then moved on back to this. But within that period, then I also conceived the idea of Baba and Shishan. Within that period, 2000, I did a lot of volunteer work. I was working for the Isaac Hayes Foundation, Necotech Center in Ada, and I had a passion for documentaries at that time too. So I was volunteering to do things for them when they are doing their stuff. I'll cover, we do that kind of thing. So one day I was told that we could do something on HIV/AIDS. I said, yeah, why not? So I studied the whole thing, did the research, and looked at there's a background to the kind of things that we are going to do. So we did a documentary. And the documentary won an award. That was our first national award. Okay. So the documentary was done in 2002. 2002, but 2003, the Ghana Film Awards, I was adjudged the best documentary filmmaker. It was the first documentary portraying it the way it was. You know why? When they did HIV/AIDS documentaries, they'll cover people's faces, and there was no covering of people's faces. The film opens with the patient lying there, and she coughs into camera, and then you pan across the body and all scars and all those kind of things. But it was very, very graphic. It was very graphic, and at that time nobody had done that kind of documentary before, because they were covering people's faces. You know, that kind of stigmatization. But this woman has said, do it. In 2004, President Kufuor's time, we're doing a program called It's Not the News. They had given me a slot to do 13 weeks and try it whether it will work. And then within 12 weeks, I've gotten sponsorship and everything, and it was going. And the people liked it. And so, now the controversy is that I'd gone to talk about the Ghana film industry and how it was sold. And they said the producer of the program, which was my immediate boss, did not check that thing. So I was in town at Mokola when some powerful politician called me and said, George, I don't know you, it was a year back. I said, yeah, we have to talk about the film industry because it's going down. He said, but they said it's not good crowd. I said, are you sure? By the time I got to the office, they've written to me to tell me that my program cannot go on there again. And my boss have been suspended because of that. And they worked him out of a place that he's worked for over 30 years. They worked him out of the place, and that's one of the big things that sometimes I look back and I say, maybe I should have been a person sacked or something, not my boss. I feel sorry for that. And basically, the resilience that I have now is from that, because then I said, if somebody has sacrificed his job because of me, then I have to fight for it, for the industry. And so, and from that time onwards, I don't care about what I talk about, as much as I know it's right, and it should help the industry. And that's how come I was pushing for policy. You see? So from that time onwards, I decided I'll be part of policy, anything. So we started the Film Act, the bill. You know, when they worked on it and all that, we started to support it and push it. Gradually, when they said we should work on it, the NFA coming to being, I stood up and said, look, let's do our legislative instrument. And so because of that, they made me the tax head and convener for that. So we appointed people nicely. For the first time, the film people came together around one table. We're not fighting. We had a common cause, you know, and that was 2017, 2018, up to the 2019 December when the National Film Authority came into being. The film industry today, for me, there are opportunities more than when we were at the forefront earlier. I mean, in our earlier days. Why am I saying this? Because there are channels of distribution that sometimes you don't even need anybody to help you. You understand? And there's digital distribution and all those kind of things. Just that it has to be structured. And if we do a proper structure, everything will be fine. That's what I see. Because you see, when mine is, there was only one TV channel, GBC, and then Metro came, then TV3 came. Today there are a lot of channels, so there are routes, different ways that you can put your things out there. But I'm not even professing that people to go and put their things on television. It's the last place you have to take your film. Because they are not paying, and they are not commissioning people to do things in that manner. So if it is some drama, some show, something that you want to take there, that is if they'll pay you. If they are not paying, don't put it there. Because you can always put it online and get some digital distribution kind of contract and let it go out there. You see, we have to look at our whole architecture within the creative space, the ecosystem, and see and be very intentional about it and build a structure well. Everything will be fine. So there should be insurance, there should be royalties, there's a whole lot of things that we have to look at. So it's not about just making a film and it's a hit, and then when it is a hit, it makes you money within that short period, and that's the end.